Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to this very special episode series pertaining to Whitelakes, where we are bringing to you a lot of information on how you can plan your contest. And in every episode, there's a guest speaker who is talking about uh, some unique aspect of Whitelakes. And today we have one of your jury members in the form of Gautam Pandey, who will be sharing a lot of information pertaining to various aspects of storytelling, and especially the video category, which a lot of you guys have been inquiring about. So, Gautam, welcome. And I believe this is the second time you're participating in Whitelakes as a judge. So, what are your thoughts about the event and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think I was there for the eighth one, no? The seventh one.
Correct. Eighth in run
Yeah,
of.
eighth. And then I remember thinking that, damn, I wish this was the 10th one. This 10th one, I'm sure, is going to be special. And here we are. It doesn't feel like 2 years have gone by since then.
Actually, 4 years have gone by because there was a COVID time,
Oh, wait. Oh, God. Shit, that was 4 years ago, huh?
2019.
Wow. Okay. Oh, nahin,
5 years.
tali thi us time.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Directly.
congratulations
Hmm.
on the 10-year anniversary. Are they called anniversaries or 10-year mark?
It is going to be a 10-year celebration this time.
Amazing, amazing. So, what do you have planned that's special?
I mean, for me, the first memories of Wild Clicks started right from the Riverbank Studios in 2010 when Mike Sir had flagged off the entire event, and he was the judge.
That's
The
true.
first three editions, in fact. So yeah, I mean, all his blessings and all. It has really mattered that today we are celebrating the 10th edition of this event.
Yeah, with his birthday in the middle on the 26th of Jan.
Oh, of course. Yeah, this is Jan, I remember.
Yeah.
Uh, so, so Gautam, before we start talking about your wild click, your tips about wild clicks, there were certain things which I just wanted to ask so that even our contestants can understand your career path. So you have been born and brought up in a family of one of India's most iconic wildlife filmmaking family. So was this career choice an obvious choice for you?
Yeah, it feels like the default setting, but I tried my best to reboot, reset, reinvent. So I did a few different things. So my mother is also a trained puppeteer and communicator. She was teaching in Jamia Millia till quite recently. In fact, she was doing these classes on communication using puppets to communicate. So I was, and I would go out on puppet shows with her and even attend some classes in Jamia when I was too small to know what they were actually about. बट उनके साथ ही रहते रहते संगति से कुछ ना कुछ घुसता है अंदर आई थिंक वो हो ही रहा था ऑटोमेटिकली और फिर यौवन के दिन आए टीनेज हॉर्मोन्स एंड आई सेड मैं नहीं करूँगा जो ये सब करते हैं सो आई वेंट ऑफ ऑन दिस पाथ एंड I was always drawing, illustrating. I taught myself animation from quite a young age because I was lucky enough to have access to people like that around me. So, curious mind, kept asking questions, kept exploring different ways of basically getting ideas out of your head. So, I did some writing, I did, like I said, illustration, then animation, then got moved into visual effects. And throughout it, I was always helping around the house, so whether it was my mother or my father in filmmaking, going for shoots and things. So I was learning without wanting to learn. It was just kind of happening. It's like when you volunteer, I was volunteering with them, let me put it that way.
So how were the initial years working and training under Mike Sir?
I used to basically hang out with Lalmanji, who you would have met also. He's our
Yeah,
uh, iron pillar,
absolutely.
to say.
I remember meeting him in 2009 when we were doing that Corbett project together.
Yeah, yeah. He's a time traveler or something because he has not aged at all. His hair is as luxuriant and dark as it ever was, and his mooch also. And he's the sweetest man, of
Yeah.
course, and wealth of information,
Mm.
and always ready to, discuss something, talk about it, come up with solutions. He's very solution based, and I
Mm.
think these are the micro learnings you get
Hmm.
along your path of, growing up as you get through life. There's a lesson in everything if you're open to learn it.
Right, right,
So
right.
I think I would say I picked that up from Lalmanji to be
Hmm.
solution oriented.
Hmm.
And I was usually just helping with, equipment, gear. I wasn't shooting all the time, but if there was a spare camera, because back then, cameras were expensive, more expensive. So no one had more than one body or two bodies max. So that's why there's not much BTS from back in the day, because
Right.
there was only one camera. How will you film BTS?
Hmm.
So how do you stay busy? You just stay busy by then helping out and carrying stuff and watching, or just, you know, staying engaged with what is in front of you.
Hmm.
So the learning, I think, from that time sinks in deeper. Right now, there are many distractions around. Like, even if on location, on set, very often I myself find
Hmm.
one hand going to the pocket to touch my phone. For what reason, I don't know. I say, why am I reaching for my phone? But it's just, we live in such a, exciting world now.
Hmm.
There's so much that will pull you out of a moment. So to
Hmm.
train yourself to stay in that moment is also an important thing. And you have to remind yourself, actually. It's not easy.
Right,
You have
right.
to remind yourself. I have to remind myself.
तो मैंने गौतम आपका जर्नी मैं पिछले अराउंड 15 साल से वी हैव बीन इंटरेक्टिंग और बहुत क्लोजली आई हैव सीन योर जर्नी एंड there has been a process of evolution because you have probably grown, evolved out of the shadow of Mike Sir, and you have tried to carve a niche for yourself, and you have been fairly successful in doing that. तो ये जर्नी कैसा था? Was it tough, or were you mentally prepared for it?
I mean, the shadow question comes quite often, but I never felt a shadow. I felt like it was a joint shadow, maybe, that we were casting. I was like always next to him.
Hmm.
Very often, I was trying to help him, aid him in whatever he was trying to do, like being part of that project. And whatever happened was quite organic. I think in my head, I think in a simple way. I don't want to overcomplicate my own thought process, whether it's a film or my life. Very often, I tell, interns or people I'm giving workshops to, that, when you're in this zone of things, conservation, documentary, the kind of person you are in life is very often how it translates into film. So the way you are is going to come out.
Hmm.
I prefer to keep things very simple and straight. So shadow wala feeling तो ऐसा कुछ मेरे को आया नहीं, or any conscious thought of कि मैं कुछ हटके करूँ. I mean, this is after the teenage hormones died down. So to
Hmm.
go back to that story, then my turning point, which I realized only recently, was during an interaction like this. I forget with whom, but it was during this film that my father made called Shores of Silence, which is on the whale sharks. It's on YouTube as well. You can just YouTube it. And I was helping out from the back end of things. I didn't go for any of those shoots, but I was helping out in the post production, and I did some animation. I did some, I think, poster or something like that, graphics which kiya tha.
You would be in our early 20s when that film was released.
I would think so, yeah. I was definitely out of college by that time, I think.
Hmm.
And then what happened was the film got made, and then very often you work, you work, you work, you work. A film gets made, it gets screened, then it's over. With that film, like my father had done before, he pushed it further and spoke to scientists and stuff like that, because there's a whole story behind the whale shark thing of being discovered in India, protection. And that was the agenda behind it, right? So now it's called an impact campaign. But earlier this term didn't exist. So, but there was a clear result that everyone wanted out of this film. Why make a film in any case, right? So they pushed, and I mean, it's a long story. Then went to CITES in Santiago, and there's a voting that happens. Countries which have whales, they vote. Should this species be protected? Should it not be protected? So there's one round of voting happened, and everyone said, no, whale shark doesn't need protection. So then urgent thing happened, calls were made, a shorter version of the film was made, overnight CDs were made back in the day. and it was somehow sent to Santiago. Before it closed, the Indian scientists went and they left CDs in all the whaling nations' rooms, like they're all living in a hotel. And they asked for a re-vote the next day. And everyone who saw the film voted against the hunting of whale sharks. So the film was a trigger and a tool. And that was my turning point. It's like, so that's what maybe a film can do. Now it
Right.
makes sense to be. Otherwise, I was like, you make a film, and it feels like it's just very focused on what you want. But now it felt like, okay, this is moving out of yourself. And that feeling, I think, resonated with me, that I like this larger, the filmmaker is not the important thing in this. The issue is always bigger. The
Absolutely.
subject is bigger. In photography, we say that very often as well.
The story is bigger.
The story is bigger. And then that's what led to me then finally shifting to film and saying, okay, I do like this. I do want to do this. This is how I choose to now bring my ideas or my thoughts out. Uh, this is the tool for me.
Great. Uh, थोड़ा अब हम भरतपुर के बारे में बात करते हैं. So, I mean, what are your first memories of Bharatpur? Did you shoot with Mike sir there, or
Yeah, yeah.
what are your some of the fondest memories of Bharatpur as a place?
Bharatpur though is, I think, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who does not like Bharatpur. And they don't have to be a wildlife person to like Bharatpur or love Bharatpur. I think there's a certain charm which is hard to explain. You have to be there, whether it's the rickshawala bhaiyas, the fact that you can walk, and just when you think it's only about birds or smelly rookeries, you reach this point and there are pythons over there. You walk a bit more, then pata chalta hai.
Can you recall when was the first time you went to Bharatpur?
Ooh, I don't know. I think I would have been.
School
I
or
have,
college?
huh?
School, college or something?
School. No, very young. I would say 7, 8. I would say vague memories of it. I remember it was winter, and I remember seeing a python for the first time, uh, and how huge and thick it looked. It moved out. It was basking, and I remember it going into this hole. And I have clear memories of the rookeries on the side, and me feeling like, oh my God, some amazing natural history moment is happening. How come no one's filming this right now? It miss ho gaya. That kind of feeling. And of course, the whole rickshaw. And then I remember coming when I was a bit older. And by that time, I had been given this hand-me-down lens. What was it? It was a Canon something to 120 or something like that. Some weird lens it was, which felt very big in my tiny hands. And must have been like this big. So I thought, okay, अब मैं जाके करता हूँ भरतपुर में. By that time, the game had changed. Everyone had these 400, 600 mm's, and I was like with this piddly little thing, and I just it's like, oh, should I have put the lens hood on to make it look even bit longer? It's like थोड़ा लगना चाहिए कि हाथ में कुछ है. But it was great. It's always nice. Like, birders are special. There's a different conversation that happens around there. If you compare it to tiger parks and things like that, where there's a single-minded focus, the conversations in areas where there are birders or a mix of people, there's a
So,
different
what
kind
are
of.
the kind of stories which we have filmed in Bharatpur in the past? I mean, what was the last project? Just from a storytelling point of view, what was the thing you were pursuing out there?
Well, I'll tell you my father's last time because I recently found the footage. He filmed the last few Siberian trains that came there,
Right. Hmm.
and that was on a film camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in the day. So all very shaky footage because it's difficult. They were in the marsh and the tripods weren't great back then. And for me, the last one was, I think I was working on wetlands disappearing. This was for Earth Matters. When was it? My short-term memory is gone, but I would say it was at least, it was before Wild Clicks 8th edition.
Since you are talking about wetlands disappearing, and now let's talk from a Wildclicks point of view. The main theme for the photo story for people. I mean, you would have seen Wildclicks has changed quite a bit since the time you judged the event in 2019.
Yeah.
Where the entire judgment was done on the basis of singular images. And now, though we have single image categories, but there is a central theme on the basis of which the grand prize has to be declared, and that is a photo story on this theme called Keoladeo Wonders, where people are supposed to not only talk about Bharatpur as one of the most keystone locations in India for wildlife photography and things like that, but also depict Bharatpur as one of India's most critical wetlands, and how effectively a photographer can bring about this element of the importance of wetlands, conservation, and the efforts which have been taken in a place like Bharatpur, just a 35 square kilometer park. Uh,
Yeah.
in the past so many years, the park has also gone through so many turmoils. You know,
Yeah.
just see the 70, 80-year history of this park. So many things have happened, and still uh,
Mm.
it's quite a model park, because if
Mm.
we are not able to conserve a 35 square kilometer of a forest which is so rich in biodiversity, then what else can we do?
Yeah.
So uh, so since you mentioned that you did this story on wetlands and conservations, and also, what do you think about this theme, and how do you think that a contestant should approach a place like Bharatpur
Mm.
uh, with this photo story theme in their mind? Because uh, you know, as a photographer, I also feel that a lot of planning has to be done when it comes to approaching a photo story. But what is the preparation a photographer needs to do? How does one approach a photo story like this?
Yeah, there's a good one I heard recently. It said intelligence is knowing that tomatoes are a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. So I think
Huh.
information is also like that. When we
Hmm.
do our research, you gather so much information. Now we don't have to use all of it at one time, and that clarity needs to come in. Uh, you know, clarity for it's all the W's, why we want to make this. What are we trying to say? Who are we trying to make this for? If we can answer these questions, they're not always easy. Sometimes it's not a 1 day or a 1 hour thing. It comes slowly. When you spend time with the subject, then you know what's resonating with you, what's important for you. What is it that's why there can be 50 people who go to Bharatpur and make a film, and each one can be different. If
Hmm.
each person is straight and honest with themselves, okay, why do I want to do this? And that's what makes a storyteller and a filmmaker. It's your particular perspective, right? And that's why in film they say all ideas are done. All
Hmm.
films are already made. Now it's just about how you tell a story.
Hmm.
So, wetlands, what are the issues around the wetlands? We know what the issues are going to be. Every wetland is more or less facing the same issues. How is this going to be different? So why are we trying to make this film? Are you just trying to make something to win a competition? Will this have a life beyond this competition? Okay, if I win something, great. But if I don't, I still have a story that I want to tell, right? And that is more important, I think. That I will be in this environment, I'll be in a place where there are mentors, there are, my colleagues, people who feel the same way around me, who I can bounce ideas off, and I can get this idea that I have, I can develop it, I can make it into something. Whether I win or lose, I will have a story I wanted to tell, and now I can take it forward from there. Whether I do screenings, whether I want to make a bigger film out of it, whether it's just an awareness thing, I will gift it to, the forest department. It could be anything. But you have to know as a storyteller, filmmaker, whether it's a photo story, whether it's a film, why you are doing what you're doing.
So since we are talking about storytelling in wildlife, तो भले ही एक फोटो स्टोरी हो या वीडियोस हो, what are some of the key elements a photographer or a videographer should keep in mind
हम्म।
when they want to tell compelling stories?
तो बात उसी पे घूम फिर के आ जाती है कि आप किसके लिए बना रहे हो। तो अगर मैं फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट के लिए बना रहा हूँ पॉलिसी चेंज के लिए, या मैं आम जनता के लिए बना रहा हूँ जिनको
अगर
जहाँ
हम वर्कप्लेस कंटेक्स्ट में बात करें, आई मीन वो तो एक इट्स
कॉन्टेस्ट के,
या
so then they have to think of the jury and the judges, right? And now everyone is experienced, everyone has seen a certain number of things. So will they be impressed by a kingfisher sitting waiting to dive in, jump in? I think we know the answer to that one. Will they be impressed with the kingfisher with a fish in its mouth? You know, we know those shots exist. So what is something that will make someone notice something and be moved by it? I think वो emotional reaction कैसे achieve हो सकता है? आप वो सोचिए. Emotional reaction doesn't mean shocking. It, shocking can be an emotional reaction, of course, but how can I emotionally move someone with an image? So a good starting point is आप खुद अपने बारे में सोचिए कि आपको क्या इमोशनली मूव कर चुका है जिंदगी में या इंस्टाग्राम की फीड में. हम सब स्क्रॉल करते हैं, हमारा अंगूठा बहुत तेज चलता है, लेकिन कभी कभी रुक जाता है ऐसे. तो वो क्यों रुका? क्या अच्छा लगा? कॉम्पोजिशन की वजह से? या कभी कभी रुक के हम कैप्शन पढ़ते हैं, तो क्यों हमने कैप्शन पढ़ा?
मेरा हमेशा बोलना है कि इन टुडेज टाइम द डिफरेंस बिटवीन अ गुड इमेज एंड अ ग्रेट इमेज, यू नो, योर थंब डिफाइंस इट.
एग्जैक्टली.
अब जब करते हैं तो वहां अगर कहीं पर रुक गया, सो दैट मीन्स कुछ तो है उस फोटो में या उस विजुअल में, दैट्स
बिल्कुल.
एंड टू प्रेस दैट हार्ट बटन, तब तो कुछ.
हाँ, तब तो फिर बहुत ही अलग बात है.
इफ यू टेक द टाइम टू डू सम राइट अप कि उसने अपने चार शब्द उसमें लिख दिए, so that means that that image is, you know, growing in the trajectory and it's becoming a great image कि, you know, you
या,
spend time और उसमें अपने 5 सेकंड उसमें लिखने को लगा, because ये जो पूरा क्रिएटिव पोल्यूशन चलता रहता है इंस्टाग्राम पे,
एग्जैक्टली.
so that is the way to think about it. Yeah,
And
you.
that is the measure. The number of views and reach is not the measure. That is controlled by something which is out of your
Right,
reach.
right,
Your reaction board is your audience who have followed you already. चाहे वो 250 लोग हों या 10 या हजारों में.
right,
पर when you are posting something, creating something, you should be thinking of your audience. Whoever
right.
the algorithm will do will whatever it will do. Same way for the judges, to come back to this. You are now, if we talk about only the competition, you're creating for this select group of people. So what is it that you can bring to the table which you think they would appreciate, something that will resonate with them, which they feel is also important? And of course, if your ideologies match and you put something forward
Yeah.
that really resonates, then it works both ways. I mean, I'm talking about strictly about winning a competition. If you want to win something.
Now, as a photographer, especially if I put myself into a wild click scenario, I feel research and planning is very important. Or, you know, uh, it will be, it is really critical for people to read about the history of the location, understand the entire dynamics of the place, and have some kind of a concept in the mind, you know, plan A, plan B, plan C, because it's wildlife. You ascertain कि ऐसा ही हमने जो सोचा है वही होगा. And
Yeah.
if you come with that kind of a mindset, then probably you will be able to perform in those 4 days. You know, you in one of the bites which you had given for White Clicks, which we posted on Instagram also, uh, you just mentioned about a very small thing, which I think it would be great if you can elaborate around it. You mentioned about photo stories can be thought about from a character point of view, character-based photo stories. So, and I did receive a few calls from contestants who have registered that वो गौतम सर ने ये बोला था तो इसका मतलब क्या है. So, मैंने तो समझाया, but it would be great that आप खुद ही बताइए लोगों को कि what do you mean by a character-based story?
Well, a character based story है मतलब या तो हम जब कोई भी कहानी या स्टोरी सोचते हैं या देखते हैं, तो या तो हम उस स्टोरी बाहर से बता सकते हैं या उसको अंदर से बता सकते हैं. ये भी कंफ्यूजिंग साउंड करता है. तो अंदर से, जैसे कि अगर मैं बाहर से जाऊं और मैं बोला ये जगह को देखो, क्लिक क्लिक क्लिक, अमेजिंग, फोटोग्राफर्स पर्सपेक्टिव, आई एम नॉट पार्ट ऑफ द स्टोरी एट ऑल. बट either I can choose to bring myself into the story, And so a photographer can do something very simple by having their shadow fall in front into the frame, and kind of it's a different feeling that you get, right? It could be, I'm only thinking of depressing examples there, but supposing an injured something lying there, or something terrible which has happened, like a pile of garbage maybe which is over there, and to have a human shadow in that image, उसका मतलब कुछ और होगा. If there is no shadow, उसका मतलब उसकी feeling कुछ और होगी.
Correct.
That's the way the shadow is suddenly become a character. Someone is witness to this. कोई देख रहा है वो, right? Same way, if you want to get into telling a story from the inside, then it's what I meant when I spoke about that was to find a character who is already within the Bharatpur ecosystem.
Correct.
Could be a human being, could be, even a signboard, could be uh, an animal. For example, very often in movies, when you see, they give characters to animals, and the story is told through the animal's eyes. So the same way, if you want to talk about something, if I talk about it as an outsider, उसका impact और feeling अलग होगी. भाषण टाइप भी आ सकता है कि ये इनको क्या पता ये कहाँ से आए जी. लेकिन अगर कोई जो जहाँ रहता है, उनकी तो ये सच्चाई है, ये उसको रोज जी रहे हैं, वो जानते हैं उसको ऐसी इतनी बारीकी से, जो जो बाहर से जो आया है वो समझ नहीं पाएगा उसको. और
Correct.
अगर वो दो शब्द भी बोले, उसका इम्पैक्ट बिल्कुल कुछ और हो सकता है. तो ये
Correct.
बड़ी एडवांटेज है अगर आपको वैसा कैरेक्टर मिले. फिर बात आती है किस तरह का कैरेक्टर. सो द टाइप ऑफ कैरेक्टर, उनका जो ठहराव है, उनका जो एक्सपीरियंस है, वो बहुत डिपेंड करता है.
इसीलिए मुझे लगता है कि एज अ वाइट लिस्ट कंटेस्टेंट, अगर these contestants have the time and liberty, 25th January से the contest is starting in भरतपुर. It is very easily accessible. या तो आप 2-3 दिन पहले आके थोड़ा you can see around the place. As Gautam said, अगर character आपको ढूंढना है, what should be the character? So there are a lot of things which you can do if you are doing a bit of a pre-planning around this. And
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
you will be very sorted otherwise. And that is the way of working for any kind of story. Yeah,
And the character has to consent to being allowed for you
absolutely.
to film or take their photographs. तो कोई मिल गया, पर उसका मतलब ये थोड़ी है कि वो हाँ बोलेंगे. So you need to spend time with that person,
Absolutely.
some time at least, and make them understand why you're doing this, maybe. Right? Otherwise, why would anyone want to do it?
Correct, correct. Bilkul. So, Gautam, now, जो Wild Clicks season 10 में for the first time, we are introducing a video category, and इसका idea भी आप ही ने दिया था. You are the person who induced this thought that Wild Clicks में एक video category हम introduce करें जिसमें 1 minute का. Now we are giving a time frame that under 1 minute a person has to come up with a kind of a video. And the theme has been defined as Keoladeo moments, because we all know that Bharatpur is a place which is flooded with so many moments which keep on happening on a daily basis. So what was the thing in your mind when you came up with this idea of doing this kind of a thing where the contestant needs to formulate a story under 1 minute? First of all, whether is it a story under 1 minute, or it is just because for a lot of people who have started doing video in today's time, especially because of the advent of mirrorless technology, where things have become a bit easier, especially on the video front. A lot of contestants may just think that that data will be tossing that fish up. 120 FPS pe we'll do a nice slow motion video, and on Instagram in today's time, that kind of a stuff will invite a lot of views and likes and all. So,
Yeah.
is that something, or how can we compile a story in 1 minute?
It's challenging, but if you think about it, अगर आप ads देखो, तो ads कितने लंबे होते हैं, और उसमें कहानी फिट हो सकती है। चैलेंजिंग होता है, बिल्कुल चैलेंजिंग होता है। और उसमें पर जो स्टोरी और ऑब्जेक्टिव है एड्स का, अगर हम एग्जांपल लें तो वो बहुत ही फोकस्ड होता है, और हमको समझ आ जाने चाहिए बाय द एंड ऑफ दैट 30 सेकेंड्स इवन और अ मिनट कि ये क्या मैंने देखा और क्यों देखा। अगर हमको नहीं समझ आया तो मतलब वो ऐड तो फेल ही हो गया। तो अगर हम ऐड से इंस्पिरेशन लें और देखें कि बिना टाइम वेस्ट करे हर शॉट, हर डायलॉग या हर मोमेंट वो कहानी को आगे कैसे बढ़ा रहे हैं, और वो एक की एक तरह से टेक्निक है स्क्रिप्ट राइटिंग की भी और एडिटिंग की जब हम करते हैं कि एवरीथिंग मस्ट मूव द स्टोरी फॉरवर्ड। देयर शुड बी समथिंग इन दैट पर्टिकुलर शॉट, स्पेशली शॉर्ट फॉर्मेट में, it should lead to the next part of the story. So whether it's the music that's building it up, whether it's what's happening on screen, if there's a character, if it's something that they say which suddenly pushes the story forward, the narrative forward, then everyone's interest stays, and now they want to know where the story is going. And the story must end somewhere, right? Any classic story is
चलिए
begins
हम
with
एक एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं भरतपुर का ही, जो कि
the
a very common visual which we keep on seeing in Bharatpur, and for a lot of people who have not visited Bharatpur, सोशल मीडिया पे आप लोग देखते हो
mm,
टाटर मछली उछाल रहा है.
right.
So and as a camera user, when you're going to that place, वो बहुत लोगों का एक एस्पिरेशन भी होता है कि हमको ये एक शॉट मिल जाए, whether it is a video or a still.
Mm.
So from a video point of view, so how do you think iske around what can be a sample story, under 1 minute as a submission? I mean, just if we want to give people an example, this is a moment which there are high probabilities you will get,
Mm.
but iske around how you can formulate a story.
तो जैसा मैंने पहले कहा था, like all stories have been told. Now it's just how you tell them.
Hmm.
You think about this data situation. Most of the data situations that we've seen has always been from the perspective of the photographer, right?
Hmm.
Always sitting, always long lens. Uh, Light can be good, backlit, great. I can see every drop and stuff like that. Uh, and there are only so many things that can happen in this situation. So we've all seen this data one, किसी के कभी चोंच में अटक गया है, किसी का फिर वो स्लिप हो जाता है, मछली जी गई. These are the 2-3 situations that can happen. So now this is an advantageous situation actually that we have, because now we know कि या तो ये होगा या तो ये होगा या तो ये होगा. अब कोई
Hmm.
चौथी चीज हो गई तब तो फिर सोने पे सुहागा, as they say, great, now you have something unique. It could
Hmm.
be anything. It could be someone else coming and stealing that मछली है, उसके भी shot है.
Hmm.
Like I said, all films are done, all shots are also done.
Hmm.
So, but to put it in a story form now, to create that beginning, middle, and end. Now we talk about only video, right?
Yeah.
So that's the classic story format. If you speak to anyone, any film workshop you go, वो हमेशा यही बोलेंगे, स्टोरी में हमेशा बिगनिंग मिडिल एंड होता है. तो दुनिया की सबसे छोटी कहानी मैं बताता हूँ समझाने के लिए, वो है कि एक था राजा, एक थी रानी, दोनों मर गए, खत्म कहानी. That's the world's shortest story, right? So हाउ डू यू टेक दिस वन मोमेंट नाउ, चाहे वो डाटर था या जो भी आपको एक मोमेंट मिला, उसको अब दैट्स योर पीक मोमेंट नाउ. नाउ यू नीड द बिगिनिंग एंड द एंड.
Correct.
हाउ डू वी बिल्ड दैट? सो देन यू हैव टू थिंक क्रिएटिवली एट दिस पॉइंट. नाउ डू यू वांट टू स्टे ट्रू टू दैट नेचुरल हिस्ट्री मोमेंट, जैसा हुआ आपके साथ, क्या आपको वैसा ही करना है,
Hmm.
या डू यू वांट टू क्रिएट अ मोमेंट विच यू मे नॉट हैव विटनेस्ड, आपने वो नहीं देखा पर आपको पता है कि हाँ नेचर में तो ऐसे ही होता है कि सुबह हुई, वहां पे एक मेंढक बैठा था, मेंढक भी हंट करने की कोशिश में है, तभी कुछ आपने फिर बीच में रिफ्लेक्शंस वाले शॉट्स डाले ड्रामा इंक्रीज करने के लिए. यहाँ कोई और सेकंड कैरेक्टर घूम रहा है, मेंढक खाने ही वाला था ड्रैगन फ्लाई को, प्लुप करके वो चला गया, फिर रिवील शॉट आया, डाटर वहां पे है, एंड अचानक देयर इज अ मोमेंट ऑफ टेंशन. इफ यू हैव अ गोप्रो, इफ यू हैव एन अंडर वाटर शॉट, इफ यू कैन क्रिएट अ यू नो flurry of cuts, and boom, and your money shot is the end actually.
Hmm.
That's the climax of the whole thing. That's one way of doing it, is what I can think. But बहुत चीजें जो है जब आप फील्ड में हो, और जब आप एडिटिंग कर रहे हो तब वो आइडियाज आते हैं, ये करके देखते हैं, वो करके देखते हैं। तो ये सब कर करके ही पता चलता है कि हाँ ये हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, बात बन रही है कि नहीं बन रही है। नॉर्मली इन फिल्म, इफ यू लुक एट एनी फिल्म, कोई भी शॉट होगा वो 3 से 4 5 सेकंड तक हो सकता है। तो अगर आप उसको 4 सेकंड का शॉट भी ले लो, अब मैंने अपने पैर में कुल्हाड़ी मार दी, मेरे को मैच करना पड़ेगा, तो 1 मिनट में कितने शॉट आ जाएंगे अगर 4 सेकंड या 5 सेकंड का एक शॉट हो, है ना? तो 5 सेकंड का अगर शॉट होगा तो मतलब 12 शॉट्स आप ला सकते हो। 12 शॉट्स बहुत है एक स्टोरी बताने के लिए। जैसे फोटो स्टोरीज हम सब ने देखी हुई है, 3 या 4 शॉट में भी पूरी स्टोरी पता लग जाती है ना? इफ
And
यू
I mean, 1 minute to maximum हम बोल रहे हैं. It can be under 1 minute. It can be.
कैन बी अंडर 1 मिनट।
That's
पर
right.
अगर 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 आपकी स्टोरी होल्ड कर रही है
Hmm.
एंड यू नीड दैट मोमेंट, लाइक आई वुड वांट, अगर कोई पानी में छलांग मार के गया, दैट्स माय लास्ट शॉट, आई वुड वांट कि मैं वो सब रिपल्स खत्म हो जाए उसकी सरफेस पे।
Hmm.
तो यू शुड थिंक ऑफ ए स्टोरी लाइक दैट, कि वो फिर बहाना नहीं चलेगा एंड में कि वो मेरा टाइम खत्म हो गया वरना मैं इस शॉट में और लंबा कर देता। तो आपको सोचना है कि
Hmm.
मैं क्या चाहता हूँ
Hmm.
इससे।
Right. Right. No, I'm sure contestants are going to enjoy this new edition, and you know, uh, ये सारा जो टेक्नोलॉजिकल फ्रीडम आज की डेट में हमारे पास है, that using all these mirrorless cameras, we are able to uh, do uh, videos in this kind of a fashion. उसका बहुत अच्छे से it will be put to great test during the Wild Clicks event. So we all are hoping to see that. I'm sure that a lot of still photographers, they want to participate uh, in this video category, and from what we see in our contestant list, there are some people who are coming forward specifically to participate in this. So it's a good selection of both kinds of contestants, and देखते हैं क्या आएगा इसमें.
यू कैन, भाई कोई भी जो पार्टिसिपेट कर रहा है एड्स भी देखिए एंड मे बी गेट ऑन टू द इंटरनेट एंड डू अ सर्च फॉर माइक्रो डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज और 1 मिनट डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज। आई नो एक यूट्यूब चैनल में देखता था एक टाइम पे, 60 सेकेंड डॉक्स करके नाम था। दे आर ऑल ओके, सम मे बी बेटर, सम मे नॉट बी बेटर, बट यू हैव टू जज एंड सी, राइट?
Right.
की बीइंग कि हम सिर्फ इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं देना चाहते। दिस इज
Hmm.
नॉट अ न्यूज रिपोर्ट वी ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट। We want
Hmm.
to take a moment, we want it to be memorable, that
Hmm.
देखने के बाद भी किसी को याद आए, हाँ वो शॉट अमेजिंग था या वो स्टोरी अमेजिंग थी, मेरे को ये पता नहीं था। तो ये फीलिंग्स होनी चाहिए लोगों में ना, जब वो कुछ देखें कि
Hmm.
या तो मेरे को पता नहीं था ये, या मेरे को फिर से देखना है, या मेरे को किसी और को दिखाना है। अगर
Hmm.
वैसी फीलिंग्स हम हिट कर सके, जो भी हम कंटेंट बनाए, चाहे वो इमेज हो या फिल्म, तब
Right.
शायद हम सही सही रास्ते पे हैं।
Absolutely. So Gautam, do you feel as compared to 2019 में जब आप as a jury member थे, uh, the situation for White Clicks contestants in terms of photo stories, videos, or ये सब, things have become more challenging and more tougher, because should people be tensed about it?
I think if winning is your mission in life, then I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on you. But I think this all these spaces that are created, and like Wild Clicks being one of them, and उस time भी जब मैं गया, I think there's a great feeling. इतने like-minded लोग कहाँ मिलेंगे आपको एक साथ इकट्ठे, जिनके साथ आप conversations और इतने सारे दिन एक साथ कि रिलेशनशिप्स बिल्ड कर सकते हो आप लाइफ लॉन्ग। ये तो एक मोमेंट है। अभी हम सब आंख झपकेंगे तो वाइल्ड क्लिक्स 20th एडिशन हो रहा होगा, पर यहाँ पे लॉन्ग लास्टिंग रिलेशनशिप जैसे शिवांग और मैं मिले, ऐसे ही मिले बातचीत करते हुए। तो आई थिंक दोज आर द ट्रू टेक बैक्स, दीज आर जस्ट स्पेसेस। स्टोरीज हम बताएंगे, ये आपकी ना फर्स्ट स्टोरी है ना लास्ट स्टोरी जो आप बताने वाले हो। So I think go in with that attitude of that I am a storyteller, I want to keep doing this, and I want to be part of this community that has been, created.
That's great. So thanks a lot, Gautam, for sharing all these inputs today. And I'm sure हमारे जितने contestants ये सुन रहे होंगे, they all have been waiting for a lot of ज्ञान, और ये जो जैसे हम उस दिन बात कर रहे थे कुंजी,
कुंजी, हाँ कुंजी चाहिए।
cheat code. So ये इसके जो cheat codes हैं, so I guess I hope you guys are making notes and trying to understand the mindset of jury members, the mindset of mentors, and the mindset of all experts who are telling you how to come up with a plan when it comes to your photo story and how to create a photo story. So, Gautam, looking forward to seeing you again in January and spending 4 5 days with you. And
Yes, looking forward to it for sure.
these contestants, they will also be waiting to see you um, giving a lot of practical on-field uh, gyan during those 4 days. So,
Absolutely. I need to film a darter flipping a fish. I don't think I have that shot in my reel yet.
चलो हम लोग बैठ के मंदिर के किनारे चाय पीते हुए यही सब काम करेंगे.
चलिए बढ़िया 200-600 with converter या without.
That will decide. Thanks a ton, Gautam.
Okay, thank you and see you soon.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.